Welcome back to Briggs on Books, our international talk show where we talk to authors, but not just authors, illustrators, editors, people who help you get your book out. There's a lot of steps. So many of our viewers are authors just trying to get to that final step, and it's a lot. There's a lot of steps to go through, but the next guest we have coming up, not only did she get a book published, but she illustrated it too. Welcome, Shain Stodt. From North Carolina, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike. It's really nice to be here.
It's my pleasure. By the way, here's the cover of Shain's book, and it is called Sally Mitz Finds a Home, the story of a shy shelter cat. Now, am I right when I say you created the cover and also the other images we're going to look at?
Yeah, it's all my illustration, the writing and the all of the illustration is me. It's all from my heart.
I've never asked this question about a children's book or an illustrator book, but is this a true story?
It's a synthesis of true stories.
Okay.
Yes.
Which you would have to do with cats.
Exactly. I have rescued many cats, and I have 7 shelter cats, or rescue cats in my home, and I've always had them because they're always out there on the street, needing care.
Yeah.
So I've put together the stories of of several different kitties that I've known.
Now, I want to just ask you about some of the illustrations, and then we'll talk a little more about the story. But here's an illustration by you, I guess, and the cat's out in a garden. He's got flowers around his head. And butterflies.
Right. Well, you know, when Sally's left alone, of course, she's hungry. There's nothing in this empty house once her family moves away. So she has got a lot of spunk, and she busts out of the dog door, and she's in a garden. And having always lived in a house, which is basically a box, really, for a cat, she's never been in nature before, even though she is, like any animal, you know, nature is a big part of her. So it's a thrill and it's an adventure to her to see butterflies and meet squirrels and, you know, be in a sense for the first time in her life.
I've never thought of it that way. They're just in a box, and right out the door there's a giant adventure.
There is, and I would hasten quickly to say that it's not that we want cats out on the street, because of course that's not safe for them, but it really is helpful if you can have a little patio for them and put some plants on it, or just give them some cat grass in their house. If you happen to have a garden, would you have the opportunity to close a section in? It's a wonderful thing for any animal to have some kind of natural contact.
But that's a great twist.
Well, they're being...
It's a great twist and very cat-like for the cat to figure out the dog door.
Yeah. Well, she sees the dogs going in and out of the garden, and she knows there's something out there. Maybe there's some food out there. You never know.
By the way,
then she, you know, ends up getting lost, which is what happens to all cats.
Oh, boy.
Who have that particular adventure.
The next illustration we have is a cat in a pair of boots. It's a beautiful picture.
Thank you. Thank you.
I
was trying to express how she was feeling with the blues and the colors, that, you know, she's now discovered loneliness and insecurity and hunger, and she's on a stranger's porch because she doesn't know where her family is. And she's lonely, and she just falls asleep because she's exhausted. Like any kitty, she's looking for shelter.
Yeah.
But fortunately, there's somebody peeking out of the window there who sees her and does rescue her, or tries to, by taking her to a shelter.
I think this next picture is a dog and a cat, if I'm not mistaken. Or it could be 2 cats.
It could be 2. Oh, I know it. That's a dog-like looking cat.
Okay.
She does find a friend in the shelter.
Oh,
Charlie.
I hope we're not giving away the story, but the cat gets out discovers a garden and ends up in the shelter.
Yes.
Oh boy.
It
Is this
ends
going to
up
be
in
a
the
sad
shelter.
story? I don't know.
It's not,
Okay.
but it does one of the reasons it was written the way it was is to let people know that animals, like people, have backstories.
Yeah.
They don't just show up in the shelter from a happy home. Most of them do go through a bit of an ordeal before they're in a shelter, and then they're in a space, in a cage with strangers around them, and people want them to wag their tails if they're a dog, or to purr and be cute if they're a cat. And actually, first of all, they've probably had a hard time before they got there. And now here they are, strangers they don't know, want them to be charming. And animals tend to be, shy
It,
around strangers.
is that what
So
this
we want,
next illustration is? Is it a family at the shelter?
it's a family who's looking for an animal to take home. And in this case, they're in the cat section. And they have no interest in little Sally, who has a golden heart, because she's just this little ball that's hiding because she's shy and she doesn't know them and she doesn't perform. Um, and so they walk away. She's just too shy. No one's going to want to adopt such a shy cat,
Mm-hmm. I see now the little ball. It's just a little ball.
Yeah. And this is what happens if I work in a shelter, and a lot of the little cats are just kind of in the corner, and it takes them a long time before they start to feel even comfortable enough in the shelter to come out and meet people.
Yeah.
But it's not a barometer of their personality. They may be the sweetest love bug. They just you need to understand as you approach any animal that they have to trust you before they're going to open their heart to you.
By the way, any of these pictures I feel like I could hang in my house. They're really art, very expressive and colorful. The final picture is that somebody maybe adopting Sally Mitz.
Sally does find a man who doesn't expect her to jump up and down. He sees her beautiful heart in the quiet little kitten, and he extends patience to her. He gives her the time to make the decision herself that she wants to sniff his hand and wants to get a feeling of who he is. And eventually she becomes brave enough to walk into his hands. And then he enfolds her, and he becomes her person.
Well, anybody who loves cats is going to love this story. And this is a great book for kids. It sounds like there's a little lesson in there.
The little lesson is just to have patience with animals, and understand that they're just like people, and not to have false expectations of an animal, especially in a shelter.
And they have backstories. They all have backstories.
That's right. Like us. They're all coming from someplace.
By the way, I have your web address on the screen, shainstott.com. What would our viewers, what would they find there?
They'll find a gallery of illustrations from different Sally books, and blogs about Sally and about cats and about related subjects. And they'll find all kinds. There's some fun places on it where we share cat jokes. So they'll have a lot of fun if they want to go to the website, and then they can join if they want to.
Tell me, by the way, how you got moved into all this, a story your dad used to read you a story. It's a very touching story. Tell our viewers about that.
Yeah, my dad was a teacher, and he worked all day, like a lot of parents do, but he got home at night and he would read to us, and he made a theater out of reading because he had this beautiful, expressive voice, and he really got into the characters and this theme of the book. And so we would go to the wild with White Fang, and in White Fang's that whole story, we would feel it, and it was wonderful because we were different ages as kids, So we weren't just read from a certain age group. And even when I was a little kid and maybe I didn't understand everything in, John Brown's Body, I could feel a lot. And I do think it actually improved my language and cognitive skills to have that exposure when I was younger to things that maybe I wasn't so-called my age group, but I still gained from them. And I started reading very early on my own. I think that's because Dad read to us in that way.
That's that's very touching. And I read before I went to kindergarten because I had the same experience with my mom. She'd read us these books, and sometimes I didn't know if I was really reading or I just recognized certain word shapes or something. But it's so important to start early. And this is, I say this after interviews, at the end of interviews all the time, but if you have kids and they're going to birthday parties for other kids, buy a stack of these books by Shain Stodt. Have them on hand so when your kids go, oh, I have a birthday party tomorrow, you've got one. Send them with a book to keep that book forever. Also, for my kid's grandma, for her birthday and Christmas, because we never knew what to give her, I'd always give her these kids' books because she loved when the kids came over, she had a book to read them. So there's a lot of uses for these. So my point is, don't buy one, buy a stack of these. Shain, anything else you want our viewers to know about you or the books?
Well, just that it's a series, and there will be more. Sally is going to go all kinds of places now that she has a secure and loving home. It's just time to start living.
Right. How many are out in the series so far?
Well, no, this is only the first book.
Okay, the first.
Out now. And the second and third book is actually on my desk being illustrated right now, where she's going to go into the land of imagination and meet interesting characters and learn her, sort of open up her potential.
When I was a kid, I got a book. There was a series, and they got me the first book and said, no, there's more. And as a kid, I looked so forward to the next book. That's nice that they're going to drip out like that.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Once you love a character, like if you've read A Wrinkle in Time, you have to read the next book and the next book, or Pippi Longstockings, you just got to read them.
Got to keep going. Well, thank you, Shain. I really appreciate your time, and I want to have you back again and again.
That would be wonderful, and thank you, Mike. It's been a pleasure.
All righty, and for our viewers, don't go anywhere. We have another author coming up right after this, and we'll be back with more Briggs on Books.